Time to rank this shit, boy. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the long-delayed, long-overdue Phantasm ranking. It's going to be all 5 Phantasm films from worst to best. You guys know how this works. Boy! Finally wrapped up my review series. It's been going on for about 2+ years now. Ridiculous that it took that long, but I'm not even getting into the reasons why. Doesn't matter, because now I have somebody else helping me wrap this franchise up. My good buddy Sean Chandler messaged me about a month or so ago, asked for a horror franchise to rank that he's never seen before. I threw out Phantasm because I would have bet body parts that he had never seen them before, so he watched all 5 films for the very first time. I'm a longtime fan of the franchise, so you're gonna get 2 very different perspectives, which I have a feeling might still end up being the same ranking, but we'll see. Over on his channel, down below, the video description is going to have a link to it. Check out his ranking whenever you're done with this one. Subscribe to his channel. See what his first-time viewing thoughts are on this franchise. Now, as far as the veteran, the long-time, lifelong Phantasm fan, what is my ranking of these 5 films? Let's go ahead and kick it off with number 5, the worst of this franchise, and this should surprise absolutely nobody. Number 5 is Phantasm Ravager. I absolutely despise this movie. Almost every franchise, it seems like, that I love has one movie that I despise, and this is the one for Phantasm. There was an 18-year gap between Phantasm 4 and Phantasm 5 Ravager. I had so much anticipation for how they were going to end this, so many questions with what they were going to answer, how were they going to answer everything from the first 4 movies. And after years and years and years of delays and rumors and, you know, shots online that you would find that would make you think they were doing the movie, we finally got Phantasm Ravager in 2017, I think. Maybe 2016, it's been a while. But we finally got it. And yeah, this movie was just terrible. It was the only one not directed by Don Coscarelli, and you could tell. It's very, very, very low budget, and it shows because their ambition far exceeded their reach with this movie. The story is incomprehensible. It's a bunch of different shorts that have been woven together and have some extra scenes added in to try to make it a full-length movie. All it does is add confusion and add questions to this franchise that already had more than it can handle. Everybody really just feels like they're kind of going through the motions, even though you can tell that they're having fun and they're here to deliver what they can with what they're given. They just weren't given very much. So many things about this movie that disappoints me. Really, the only thing that I enjoyed about it was maybe the first 10 minutes and just the charm that's automatic with seeing these characters back together again. Everything else, just giant misstep from start to finish. Terrible movie. Phantasm Ravager, number 5. Number 4 for me is going to be Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead. Now, to me, this is the most B movie of any of these films. All of them are low budget, except for, you know, the second one's got a pretty high budget, but this is the one that really feels like it's going for the cheese. It's leaning in under the cheese. It's going for more horror comedy vibes to it. And for some people, that might be really cool, and this might be one of their favorites. For me, it just feels weird in the franchise. If you watch 1, 2, 3, and 4, 3 is the only one with this tone. It's still enjoyable, though. It's still got the characters that you love. This is, you know, A. Michael Baldwin running back into the role of Mike, and I feel like his acting is not nearly as good as it was in the first film.
Let me release you from this imperfect flesh that ties you to time and space. All that is unknown will be known to you once more.
But Reggie's still really great. It's interesting seeing Jodie back. Some of the side characters, especially the little kid, is actually pretty cool. There's some good gore, some good kills in here, so it's enjoyable enough, but definitely a step down in budget for sure, and just a weird tone in the middle of this franchise. It doesn't quite fit for me. Number 3 is going to be Phantasm 4, Oblivion. Now, this one I actually enjoy a little bit more than 3 because it goes back to the vibes of the original film for me. Not just because they have a lot of recycled scenes, because if you don't know the history of the original Phantasm, the original cut of it was like 3 hours long, so they have so many unused scenes that they actually fleshed out this 4th movie with it. And while some might see that as lazy, I actually think it's pretty cool. And it gives this movie a unique little vibe to it, because you get the future storyline or the present storyline that's going off of Phantasm 3, but you also get some flashback scenes that we didn't see before. You get some extra, explanations of things that was happening on behind the scenes that we didn't see in the original Phantasm. They actually kind of play into that whole multiple dimensions thing where we see characters back in the 70s, but it's not exactly what we remember seeing in that movie. I like that whole vibe to it.
But this won't hurt a bit. Well, maybe just a little bit.
And I think A. Michael Baldwin's acting is much better in this one than it was in 3. I like everything with Reggie on the road by himself whenever he encounters a beautiful girl yet again and just cannot find a girl that does not turn into a zombie at some point. The interaction with that little zombie cop that he had was a lot of fun. So it's still low budget. It's still kind of slow. It does start to answer some questions, but then introduces even more. So it's still not a great film on its own as far as a standalone watch, but I can pop in 1, 2, and 3 and go to 4 pretty happily. Now we're at the top 2, and I would be probably hard-pressed to find anybody's ranking of Phantasm that does not have Phantasm 1 and Phantasm 2 at the top. It just kind of divides you from there. Are you a fan of the more lower budget, a little bit more cerebral sci-fi, kind of mind-bending storytelling of the first Phantasm, or are you more the mainstream horror, slasher, gore-filled, action set-piece type fan that is more directed towards Phantasm 2? And I'll be honest with you, it depends on what side of the bed I wake up on, because I love these two films so much that I'll rewatch Phantasm and be like, oh, this one's definitely my favorite. And then I'll rewatch Phantasm 2 a couple months later and be like, oh, no, this one's got more rewatchability. So, as of right now, today, what side of the bed that I wake up on? My number 2 is going to be Phantasm 1, the original. Now, again, it's like a razor-thin difference between 1 and 2 for me, but Phantasm is great because I love the original storyline where these two brothers just figure out that something weird is going on in this mortuary in their town, and they're trying to investigate it. I love that simple storyline. I love Angus Scrimm as the tall man, all the little reveals in this movie with the dwarves and the spheres. It was so unique for the time, and it's so unique still to kind of discover it because there's not really a franchise that does the things that Phantasm did. So even for fans nowadays, if you've never seen Phantasm, there's still a lot of things that you will check out and you'll be like, this is a wild little movie I've never seen before. I love the score. I love some of the scares and some of the practical effects and the way that they were created with that low budget. It's just a very cool movie that has always had a giant place in my heart and will always be one of my favorite horror films of all time. So Phantasm the original, number 2. But number 1 for me is Phantasm 2 for a multitude of reasons. First of all, this is the one that I grew up watching the most. I actually didn't see the original Phantasm until maybe 2-3 years after I had already been watching Phantasm 2 over and over again. We didn't have the VHS of the first one until later on in my childhood. So part of it's because it's got a little bit more nostalgia power. The other part of it is that this movie definitely has more rewatchability than any of the other Phantasm films. I mean, I think there's people that can even watch Phantasm 2 without having seen the first one and carry along with the story just fine and have a good enough time with it, where any other film in this franchise, I don't think you could probably do that. So Phantasm 2 has that rewatchability. It's more fun, it's a little bit more mainstream, and the plot line of it is simplified quite a bit for a more mainstream audience, to where they crank up the action, they crank up the gore, they make it more of a road movie to where they're hunting down the tall man. And I just think that that adds to the fun value a little bit more. It's still scary, it's still dark, still has some awesome practical effects and gore, probably more practical effects and gore in this one than there are any of the others in the franchise. And I actually like James LeGros better in the role of Mike for me. I love A. Michael Baldwin in the original film, but he's kind of up and down this whole franchise, and I feel like LeGros played him a little bit more tough and a little bit more as somebody that I would have preferred to follow later on in the franchise. Reggie is more badass in this movie than he's ever been, and even the tall man has just some great lines. You think when you die, you go to heaven? You come to us. When you talk about sequels that improve upon what the original did, I could easily see that argument being made for Phantasm 2. It's probably my second favorite, maybe third favorite if I'm forgetting one, but certainly in that top 3 of best horror sequels of all time. I love this movie to death, and as of right now, it is my favorite of the Phantasm franchise.
We're gonna wake up. It's a dream.
It's only a dream.
No, it's not.
So what is your guys' ranking of the Phantasm franchise? Be sure to let me know down below in the comments section. Check the video description as well for the link to Sean Chandler talks about its ranking, and go check out what a first-timer thinks about all these movies. I'm eagerly anticipating seeing if he's got some wild ranking that I would have never thought he had, but I'm willing to bet money it's pretty close to mine. So we'll see. Let me know down below if you came from Sean's channel. Welcome to this channel, and be sure to like and subscribe on this channel as well. I got a lot of stuff that you will enjoy, I promise you. And as always, guys, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.